just about 7:01 a.m., and you are now invited to listen to The Morning Watch with Stokeley Marshall.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the award-winning The Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to all listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live in the first watch today. Do public commentators need to declare political allegiances and face whatever fallout? And in second watch, will Jamaica's low fertility rate be the death of us, literally and culturally? For our social media question, we ask, will Jamaica's low fertility rate be the death of us, literally and culturally? Share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp, 876-9973-125, using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on the program. But first, here's I quote.
All right, good morning, good morning. Today's I quote says, "A fallen man is not simply an imperfect creature who needs improvement. He is a rebel who must lay down his arms." This one is from C.S. Lewis.
He's a rebel. Or she's a rebel.
That's it.
God.
That's what it says.
Good morning, Jukal.
Good morning, good morning.
The first watch will be back after this break.
Don't let freshness ditch you when you need it the most. Wash your clothes with Downy Softener to keep dazzling everyone around you from day to night. Try Downy Softener now.
Jamaica's gangs are like packs of rats.
Nasty.
They live in filth and try and drag us all in there with them, spreading the disease of violence and corruption everywhere.
Nasty.
But like a pack of rats, they can be eliminated. Rats. With your help. If you have information on gangs, call Crime Stop on 311. This message is brought to you by Crime Stop and their marketing partners, Lime and NCB.
This Father's Day, Love 101 invites you to something special. Pages for My Father, a simple, sacred celebration for dads. Join us for brunch at Pages in the Garden inside Hope Gardens this Sunday, June 15 from 11:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. It's a day of love, music, and letters as we honor the strength, faith, and presence of our fathers. And here's your chance to be a part of it. Write a short letter, 100 words or less, to or about your dad. Send it by WhatsApp to 876-997-3125 as a message or voice note titled Pages for My Father, and listen for it to be shared on Love 101. If it touches the heart, you could win brunch for two. That's Pages for My Father inside Hope Gardens from Love 101 FM, the family station, in partnership with Pages in the Garden.
You ever teach me right, so no, you never lead me wrong.
Thank God for Calvary.
thank him for his son.
Hearts and Hands presents a fundraising concert for Reverend Glenn Graham, Part 2, featuring Kukudu, Prince Hall, Orville Sutherland, Derek McFarlane, Desmond Saunders, Sister Arlene, Sebastian Graham, Unity Singers, Utrecht Tingle, music by DJ Chinny, MCs Nadine Blair and Markland Action Edwards. Admission 2,000 pre-sold, 2,500 at the gate. Ticket outlets at the Brownstown Pharmacy beside KFC. Refreshment on sale. For more information, call 876-885-1055. Friday, June 27, 7 p.m. at the Brownstown Tabernacle, Brownstown, St. Anne. Let's do this for Reverend Glenn Graham. A Love 101 endorsed event.
I was so undone.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Now, as we enter the election season, or we are already in the election season, you will have a number of persons who are public commentators commenting on matters relevant to the affairs of the country. And some affairs of the country can have an effect on the outcome of elections, one way or the other. And are we now at a stage in our democracy, in our governance, where it is vital that public commentators and other persons who comment on matters publicly, for example, in the public media space, for them to declare their hand and say which political party or which ideology they support. Maybe they don't necessarily support a certain party, but they might have a particular preference in terms of their own ideology. Whatever it is, whether it's party or whatever, they ought to declare their hand and see where they stand on certain issues or where they stand in terms of their own politics. We have as our guests this morning to have a very riveting conversation around this topic, Dr. Henley Morgan, Executive Chairman, Agency for Inner City Renewal, Community Transformer, and, of course, public commentator. We also have another public commentator. Her name is Dr. Nadine Spence. She's also a member of the Constitutional Reform Committee. Dr. Nadine Spence and Dr. Henley Morgan, good morning to you both.
Good morning. Good morning to both you and Dr. Morgan.
Great having you on.
Good morning. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
Amen, sir. Definitely.
Good morning, my brother and sister, and all of Jamaica tuning in.
Hallelujah. Amen. Getting right into it. What, if anything, either of you, do our policies, regulations say, if anything, about this need, whether it's a perceived need or an actual need, for a public commentator to say, you know, what kind of ideology, what is their politics, or is it irrelevant? Starting with you, Dr. Morgan.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the question. I am almost emotional in responding to this question because although we are not making reference to any particular thing happening in the political sphere at this present time, I put forward myself as a specimen or as an example. Over 3,000 newspaper articles or columns. My radio program, The Watchman, I'm approaching 800. Now, we have to stop, going towards the lowest common denominator, which in Jamaica is politics. Don't we have a constitution and a Bill of Rights that give me the right to have a voice on public issues? And would requiring me to have to say what my political affiliation is Does that not trample on that right? So my answer to your question is no. No. My political affiliation is my right and my private business. And it should no way impinge on my most important right, which is free speech.
Understood. Dr. Nadine Spence, your thoughts?
I agree with Dr. Morgan. I think the matter of my political affiliation is secondary to my opinion, my politics. Because I might very well have a particular opinion and it might even align with a particular party, but in a particular instance. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's how I vote. And I'm not sure what's the point of it. What does it do? What does this, need to know people's party affiliation? What is the point of it? We all know that for those who call for it, it's a kind of red herring call for those who would like to destroy people's reputation and to make people wrong for having a political perspective. In Jamaica, people have been sidelined and victimized because they're associated with one party or the other. So I don't know that would serve any good purpose, and I agree with Dr. Morgan. People are entitled to free speech, and people are entitled to share or not share their party preference. I don't know that it would do any particular good to have people do it. I think in the public conversation, hearing perspectives from different people makes the conversation much more interesting and gives us perspectives and lens through which we can look through to understand and bring us much variety and clarity to our perspective as possible. There's no one truth. People are engaging through a particular issue from their perspective, looking at it through their lens.
You believe in moral relativism, Dr. Nadine Spence?
I'm not sure. I believe in relativism insofar as it captures one particular perspective. I don't think we all see things the same way. We all have had particular life experiences.
I'm sorry, I was interrupting you.
Yeah, no, but we all don't come to life from the same beginnings and the same perspectives and the same experiences. So we're not going to look at life the same way.
When you mentioned that when you indicated that there's more than one truth, it just sounds like a moral relativistic type of argument, which I always find intriguing.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't
There's
believe
more than one truth. That's how I see it.
Well, is that also relative? That's another discussion. But thank you, Dr. Spence. Very interesting thought there in terms of not needing to declare your politics. In the United States of America, you will often see on talk shows, for instance, a host of a program such as this one, and they'll have two guests. One might be a Democrat strategist, not a politician, a Democrat strategist, and one is a Republican strategist. Do you think we're at a stage in our own country here in Jamaica where we can move to that stage where you will have a host hosting a show such as myself? You will have maybe 3 or 4 guests. One is a strategist for the PNP, one for the JLP, one for the UIC, and one for the other political party. Please pardon me, I think it is PPP. But I see we're upon a break already. You can think about it and answer after the break. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
You're in invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station Love 101.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 Jane Bank savings plan, you know. I further my education and I make mama proud.
Save so you can make the par, travel far, graduate like a star.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch, and our guests are Dr. Henley Morgan, as well as Dr. Nadine Spence, and we're looking at the entire matter here of, do public commentators need to declare their political affiliation before they comment on issues? And I had indicated a particular situation we have in a country to our north, the United States of America, where, for instance, you will have a show such as this, where there's a host, and you will have 2 guests, one a Republican strategist and a Democratic Party strategist, not politicians, not their strategists, and they're speaking from their angles or their perspectives. Should we have something like that here in Jamaica as well? It's just a thought. I know both of you are adamant that we ought not to be needing to declare political allegiances, but the idea of having a strategist in terms of the respective parties commenting, do you think that could work here in Jamaica? We probably do it already, but informally. Dr. Morgan?
First, I would like to just commend those Jamaicans who give themselves doing the thankless job, and most times without pay, of serving on public commissions of inquiry, different committees like the one looking at the reform of the Constitution, or myself, who served on the National Committee on Crime and Violence. I would like to just big up those people. It's like serving on a jury, man. You give up your time, you give up everything, and you bring your best objective self to the task. Now, we got to separate the functions we provide in the capacity as a member of civil society and those which are in the political realm. So obviously, in the United States, as it is in every country, the president wants to pick his team. And more than likely, these are persons with a track record and a voice who are known to the public because of their competence. And so they are brought before a House committee or the Senate. But the positions they have taken do not prevent them from being selected to work in that particular role. People's minds change over time. And you may take a position today as a public commentator, but with access to more information or evidence, your position may change. So I would say the way it looks in Jamaica now is to, and I'm glad I'm actually out of the job seeking stage and age, but to be selected to certain jobs, I make no specific reference, you would either have to be dead, voiceless, or living under a rock. Which Jamaican does not have a political affiliation or at least an opinion? I rest my case.
Okay, you didn't really answer the question, Dr. Morgan, but you answered it in another way. Maybe I should say that. Dr. Spence, your thoughts? Should we move to the stage here in Jamaica where you have strategists, if I could use that term? They use it a lot in the US. So you'll have a host hosting a show, a journalist, as the case may be, and the guests are known and are declared upfront as putting forward a position that supports a particular political party, albeit they are not politicians themselves. Dr. Spence,
No,
your
but
thoughts?
sometimes they're paid to do that. There are strategists.
Well, that's fine. Maybe that's perfectly fine, whether they're
Right.
paid
So
or
that
not. But go
so that's
ahead.
what
But
I'm
go
telling
ahead.
you.
Yes, yes.
Sometimes when you see those people in America, remember America is a bigger society. Jamaica is a small society. The size of your society also determines your politics, right?
Okay.
So because we are a small society and because size influences how politics is practiced, I don't think we can have the same setup as the people in the United
You don't
States
think so?
do. Their realities is very different. Their
Okay.
access to resources are very different. And that size is important because
Yeah.
a lot of the times we're watching something in America, we're watching it from the perspective of a particular state. And that doesn't necessarily carry island-wide. It carries statewide.
You mean
So,
countrywide, federal?
yeah,
Yes.
it doesn't. It doesn't carry countrywide. Yes, yes. In Jamaica, whatever is done in one place, everybody knows it from one corner to the other.
Yeah.
Victimization is a reality, and by asking people to declare their party hand, we might be asking people to impact their future and the prospect of a good life forever.
Yes.
And I think it's not because people mean to be disingenuous or people would tell you their partisan preference. I think it's because people know that there are real consequences to it.
Yeah.
But that's one thing. The other thing is we have to be able to accept that there are different sides to a story. And one of the things I've found in Jamaica now is that there are people who believe that if you don't see things the way I see it, then you should be condemned and thrown away. And I don't think that's a fair way of looking at how we should approach a public conversation.
Yes, yes. But you mentioned the matter of strategists being paid to be strategists, and what if one were to make the case that you can have a public commentator who isn't paid directly to air a particular view, but maybe they get some sort of benefit in another way. So maybe they're associated with a particular political party, and in terms of their allegiance, there might be some spin-off for them. What Jamaicans often refer to as benefits, scarce benefits and spoils, or the benefit in that phraseology, or that phrase rather. And on the other hand, another thing I want to raise is, do you think, how much do you think the events or whatever happened in 1980? We're getting a busy tone. I'm not sure where that might be coming from. But
Okay, I'm sorry. I have to drop off. I'm so sorry.
Apologies. I'm so sorry that you
All
have to
right.
leave.
I apologize.
Yes, yes. But Dr. Morgan, you're still with us. Maybe you can weigh in here too, sir. To what extent do you think that probably the events of 1980 might have impacted how we approach these sorts of matters? Because, as Dr. Spence said, and it's probably pretty much true, if you declare your hand, there can be real consequences, and there have been real consequences. So, Dr. Morgan, the whole matter of getting a benefit first from having a particular political view as a commentator, if that is even relevant, and then secondly, the matter of some genuine fear because you might not want to show your hand and be victimized for it. Dr. Morgan.
I must say the audio on my end is
a little weak,
very poor, but I will attempt nevertheless.
We are hearing you loud and clear, though. I think I'm hearing
Right.
you. I'm hearing you very low, very
Well,
clearly, sir.
I'm happy for that. But let me just say this,
Yes,
and
sir.
bring it right down
Yes, sir.
to where the so-called common man or common woman
Yes.
which is not a degrading statement. It just means everyday people can understand.
Understood, sir.
You see, those of us who write columns in the newspapers,
Yes.
we typically write on the op-ed page. We're opinion makers. And the newspaper, for instance, will sometimes, mostly editorially,
Yes.
separates itself from our views. And we're not usually paid for doing that. You know how long it takes to write and research and write a newspaper column?
Yes.
Or
yes.
even to come on a radio program like this?
Yes.
And it may not pay, but it comes at a cost.
Yes.
In that, especially in the political silly season, people are sticking labels on you.
Exactly. Yes. They will do it.
I recently did a column, for instance, on the art of political speech making. And I mentioned the name
Yes.
that I thought was setting a new standard that separates himself or herself from other politicians.
Yes.
Do you think, having said that and named a name, I could ever be selected to certain positions without being labeled a member of that party?
So,
Look,
Dr.
this
Morgan,
thing,
so only because of time, Dr. Morgan, I'm not deliberately cutting you off. But where does that leave people then? Because if you want to be free to exercise your constitutional right to state an opinion, and what Dr. Spence unfortunately had to leave, but she made a very valid point. You can be victimized for declaring your hand. That's essentially what I think she was trying to say. So where does that leave someone as forthright as you, for example, Dr. Morgan, who has a point to make, a very valid point, but there is this concern that you're going to be labeled or mislabeled because of your honesty, Dr. Morgan?
that is the elephant in the room. Let me just say, speaking comparatively,
Yes.
in the United States, in
Yes.
private sector, in an interview, you can't ask people what's their political affiliation. You can't ask them what's their religious denomination or beliefs. There are things like that, because of human rights.
Well, in Jamaica,
In Jamaica, there are no bounds.
No, well, in Jamaica, in Jamaica, the Constitution protects citizens from discrimination based on their political opinion. So our Constitution is very clear on that. The Charter of Rights was put into place in 2011. It's a part of our law, our highest law. So you're not supposed to be victimized based on your political opinion. But having said that, continue, Dr. Morgan.
Well, most Jamaicans, the vast majority, I believe, have never read the Constitution, are not even aware of the amendment we call the Charter of Rights. And so the type of governance we have plays inside that ignorance,
Yes.
meaning not knowing. And so I think this discussion this morning is a very important one.
Yes.
I have not heard it framed just like this.
Well, of course, we are unique here. We are unique here on the Morning Watch. We go into areas that others probably don't want to go into. Go ahead.
Well, let me just tell you this. I think the answer to your question,
yes,
of to what could be done in the future,
yes,
is to use this segment as an example. Suppose we had started by framing it within a certain event that's now unfolding in Jamaica.
Yes.
We wouldn't get past the politics, would we?
And unfortunately, I am seeing where if we even wanted to, we would not be able to venture there because it is now 7:30. We're
And then
completely out
that's
of
right,
time.
right. So I believe there is,
And we don't want to prejudice anything either, because we have to ensure that we uphold the laws of the land and we don't say anything defamatory, etc., and that we stay within those bounds. But Dr. Morgan, I want to thank you for the time you spent with us today on the Morning Watch, sir, sharing your thoughts. So sorry that Dr. Spence had to leave a little bit early, but we valued her contributions as well. It was a very interesting,
excuse me,
and
I
I
just
will
wanted
add,
to end with this. I just wanted to end with this.
we don't have the time. I'm getting a very strong signal now, Dr. Morgan. Before they kick us out of the studio, we have to leave it there this morning. Dr. Morgan, thank you so much for your time and for your thoughts, as well as Dr. Spence. Listeners, we'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Jail bank, anything possible. With a little savings in your hand. Save so you can.
The time by Jan Bank is
7:31.
The name you trust to be your friend, to be a partner by your side. For generations we have been the one you trust as your financial guide. Sagicor, building trust for generations, helping hopes and dreams to grow, building our nation. Sagicor's the name you know. Sagicor.
Sagicor, celebrating 55 years.
Building trust for generations.
Ready to experience 6 times more freshness in your clothes? Try Downy Scent Beads. Its fragrance is so amazing, you have to sniff it to believe it. Try Downy Scent Beads today. 6 times more freshness versus using detergent alone.
We've seen a lot of our customers make some good moves over the years. Whether it's sharing a hug with a friend you haven't seen in a long time or sharing a meal, Grace has been there. So let's keep making these moments together, because rest assured, every time you choose Grace, you know you're making a good move.
Always a good move when you're moving with Grace.
The Morant Bay Urban Center faced great skepticism from some, but now it is nearing completion.
The Urban Center will bring modern infrastructure, commercial opportunities, and essential services to St. Thomas. This project is a true representation of development and transformation.
St. Thomas, turn right up. Who knew that Goodyear factory could become an urban center? This government delivers.
Brought to you by the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation.
Thank God for Calvary. Thank Him for His Son.
Hearts and Hands presents a fundraising concert for Reverend Glenn Graham, Part 2, featuring Kukudu, Prince Hall, Orville Sutherland, Derek McFarlane, Desmond Saunders, Sister Arlene, Sebastian Braham, Unity Singers, Udrick Tingle, music by DJ Chinny, MCs Nadine Blair and Markland Action Edwards. Admission 2,000 pre-sold, 2,500 at the gate. Ticket outlets at the Brownstown Pharmacy beside KFC. Refreshment on sale. For more information, call 876-885-1055. Friday, June 27, 7 p.m. at the Brownstown Tabernacle, Brownstown, St. Anne. Let's do this for Reverend Glenn Graham. A Love 101 endorsed event.
I was so undone.
Like you. This Father's Day, Love 101 invites you to something special. Pages for My Father, a simple, sacred celebration for dads. Join us for brunch at Pages in the Garden inside Hope Gardens this Sunday, June 15 from 11:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. It's a day of love, music, and letters as we honor the strength, faith, and presence of our fathers. And here's your chance to be a part of it. Write a short letter, 100 words or less, to or about your dad. Send it by WhatsApp to 876-997-3125 as a message or voice note titled Pages for My Father, and listen for it to be shared on Love 101. If it touches the heart, you could win brunch for two. That's Pages for My Father inside Hope Gardens from Love 101 FM, the family station, in partnership with Pages in the Garden.
You ever teach me right, so no, you never lead me wrong.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are going to be looking at what is in our newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here in the Gleaner, Farewell Kelsey. Clad in pink, the color that 9-year-old Kelsey Farragon loved most. Mourners gathered on Monday at the Spanish Town Seventh-day Adventist Church to say farewell to a child whose life was tragically cut short. And in the picture, we're seeing a number of dignitaries here to include Olivia Babsy Grange. We have here in the Jamaica Observer, Never Forgotten, again referring to Kelsey Farragon. Scholarship being granted in memory of Kelsey Farragon. This story by Vanessa Mackenzie of the Observer. And we have in Loop Jamaica News, PNP St. James candidates win court injunction in campaign poster removal case. Those and many other stories in our various news sources. Coming up next, we will look at the feedback from our feedback question. Jukal, would you like to assist us with that? The feedback question?
The feedback question is, will Jamaica's low fertility rate be the death of us, literally and culturally?
Literally and culturally. Listeners, we'll be right back at the Morning Watch.
On the next Campus Connection, we will focus on fathers in education. Fathers play a significant role in education, and their involvement can have a positive impact on children's academic and personal development. Join us with guests Dr. Mark Smith, President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, and Mr. Ricardo Allen, CEO and founder of One-on-One Educational Services Limited, as they give their input on the topic, along with information about the new AI lesson plan generator. You don't want to miss our special interview with Mr. Oren Herdit, President of the UWI Mona Math Club, as he shares about the Skills Optimization Challenge SOC. That's Campus Connection, Tuesday, June 10 at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station Love 101.
In the Bible, figures like Judas, Samson, and Saul ended their own lives. Today, more than 7,000 people die by suicide each year, making it the third leading cause of death among 15 to 29-year-olds worldwide. On this episode of The Rock, our guests Albert Martin, Reverend Mike Aiken, and Donald Stewart confront one of the most painful and complex issues of our time: suicide. That's The Rock, Tuesday, June 10 at 10 a.m. here on the family station Love 101.
Be heard, be seen by your audience on Love 101 Radio and on social media. Call Love 101 for advertising rates that fit your needs. Exposure for your event, your business, concerts, church activity, civic events, seminars and conferences, job vacancies, specials, and more. Let Love 101 help you get your information out there. Call Love 101 FM now and talk with our sales and marketing experts and get the reach you need. Call 876-968-9596 or 876-968-9597 and ask for our sales and marketing department Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. or email love101fm@gmail.com. Love 101 FM, radio and social media platforms, making it happen for you.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Now for your responses to our social media question. Will Jamaica's low fertility rate be the death of us, literally and culturally, Jukal?
All right, so someone on YouTube sent in this. They said there are many women who would love to have children but are having fertility issues. The cost for treatment options are rather exorbitant and health insurance does not cover. The government needs to try and reach a memorandum of understanding with these insurance companies to see if they can make provisions for fertility treatment in their policies. Cherry from Spanish Town says, I don't believe reporters need to air who they are affiliated with politically. That's their right as a citizen. I think they were answering the First Watch. They were responding to the
responding
First Watch.
to the First Watch
Yes.
issue.
Okay, both of those are responding to the First Watch, but this one on YouTube is to the question.
Yes. But if that First Watch issues can be a little bit of a challenge because we have a culture here in Jamaica where people can really be victimized.
For sure. Monica says public commentators need not to declare their preference because when we read and listen to them, we know where they stand politically. A few will declare themselves and they don't need to, state it.
I didn't get to explore this with the guests, but I was wondering if we should move away from reading and listening them to hear where they are. And you can read and listen to them and you misread,
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
You might assume they mean something and that's not what they really mean.
Right.
In terms of the fertility rate, this is also pretty interesting. And we are getting right into it now in the second watch. Because it is being indicated that in order for a culture to maintain itself for more than 25 years, there needs to be a fertility rate of 2.11 children per family. I know that there's no such thing as 0.11 of a child, but I guess that's a statistic that they have come up with. Jamaica's fallen below the replacement level in terms of fertility. Jamaica is currently at 1.9. In fact, I'm seeing where, according to a UN source, no country or no group, no culture, no civilization, no country has ever recovered from 1.9. Has ever recovered from 1.9, and that's where we are. Now, Jamaica's fertility rate has been below 1.9 before. It is indicated that Jamaica's fertility rate for 2023 was 1.36, a 1.02% decline from 2022, which was 1.37, a 0.44% decline, a 0.44% decline from 2021. Why is this dangerous and why have experts sounded the alarm? Here to discuss this with us so far, we have Deacon Peter Espute, sociologist and development scientist. Deacon Espute, good morning.
Hello, morning to your listeners.
What's happening, Deacon Espute? We had a listener during the section where we take comments, of course, and she mentioned fertility rates among women and the cost of treatment. Is that all? I've seen where doing a little reading online, changing gender roles is another issue. Women spending a lot of time in their careers, and the de-emphasis of the importance of the family across the board, generally speaking, in the culture, in the society. Interestingly, I was having a conversation with someone recently on the same point, and a number of issues were raised. and we weren't even well at that time. You know, I didn't have this particular segment on my on my mind at the time when we were having the conversation, but it just came up. So it's obviously an issue of concern for many persons. Deacon Dispute, what on earth is happening?
Morning again. So this issue of population growth or decline is a very complex issue. As you know, there are two ways for the population to increase. One is births, and the other is migration, people coming to Jamaica to live. And there are two ways for the population to decline. There's death, and then people leave the country to migrate to other countries.
And there could be abortion as well. Deacon Dispute, can you hold that thought for a minute? Because we're now at the break. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back at the Morning Watch.
The time by Grace Could Move is
7:45.
The name you trust to be your friend, to be a partner by your side. For generations we have been the one you trust as your financial guide. Sagicor, building trust for generations, helping hopes and dreams to grow, building our nation. Sagicor is the name you know. Sagicor.
Sagicor, celebrating 55 years.
Building trust for generations.
Febreze. Imagine getting home after a long day and it smells so amazing that it makes you smile. Try Febreze Plugs, an air freshener that delivers continuous scent for up to 50 days when you plug it in low mode. Indulge in wonderful scents for weeks with Febreze.
The NHT invites pensioners who had a weekly income of $30,000 or less at the time of retirement to apply for smart energy grants of up to $1.5 million. With the NHT's Smart Energy Grant, pensioners can install solar panels at home and lower their electricity bill. To be considered for this grant, apply via the NHT website or at any NHT office from Friday, June 6 to Wednesday, June 11. For more information, visit the NHT website at nht.gov.jm or drop in at any NHT branch.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch, and our topic here is: will Jamaica's low fertility rate be the death of us, literally and culturally? And before we bring our guests back in or on, we have another comment in our social media landscape. Jukal.
Yes, this comment comes to us from Sophia Richards on Facebook. She says, I don't believe so. The problem is that we focus so much on the decline in birth rates versus the implementation of systems for proper care and support of mothers from prenatal to postnatal, as well as the cost of living is too high for most to even consider having children. The cost of living alone is a turn off to having children because many are unable to take care of themselves.
Interesting comment there. Interesting comment. We continue the second watch. Our guest, Deacon Peter Dispute, and we are now joined by Pastor Percival Palmer, Associate Pastor, Fellowship Tabernacle, Kingston. Deacon Dispute, you are saying a number of things that can cause the population to decline.
Right. I'm saying you have to look at the thing. So for much of Jamaica's history, we had declining population. Certainly during the period of slavery, the death rate was very high because of the way the slaves were treated. The slave masters didn't care because they just imported more slaves from Africa. When the slave trade was abolished in 1807, and you couldn't get any more slaves from Africa, then it was so obvious that the birth rate was causing the population of Jamaica to decline. Eventually, you know what they did after emancipation, they imported Chinese and Indians to work on their estates. In other words, it's a concern for the economists that their models of economic development are predicated on the population increasing, because you cannot have economic growth unless you have more people to be employed to earn more money. So the way that Jamaica has traditionally dealt with a low birth rate is to promote immigration, people coming into Jamaica. You would have thought that the Haitians wanting to come here would have, the government would have liked that rather than deporting them. Because if we need the population, then we need to be promoting people to come here to live and work. But just to, since you have another guest, let me just say one more thing before I stop. For, I would say, 20, 30 years, the Jamaica, following with the United States money, pursued a population policy with the slogan, two is better than too many. Now, 2 is below 2.1.
Exactly.
So, therefore, for 30 years, we purposely advocated less than 2.1 children in the country. And look at that. Now we have less than 2. We have 1.9 or whatever it is.
1.
And instead of celebrating the success of their program since independence, we are now saying we have a low birth rate. Going along with this, 2 is better than too many. What the government did was to promote birth control, contraception,
Yes.
some of which was not contraception at all. As you know, the loop and the coil and the morning after pill are they promote abortion.
Yeah.
So abortion has always been, I shouldn't say always, since independence, has been a primary strategy in Jamaica for controlling the number of births. Now, abortion, late-term abortion, is also part, even though it's illegal in Jamaica, it's easily obtainable. The government winks at it. You can get it in the public service, in a government hospital. So that I would say that our low population or low fertility rate is a result of government policy. And the government should congratulate itself that its efforts over the last 6 years have produced the effect that it wanted to produce, which is a low population growth rate. So is it going to be the death of us? It doesn't have to be. We can simply encourage people to come here and increase the population by migration. That's how we've always done it.
Yes, and then there's the issue of the death of us culturally as well. Persons can
Well,
come,
you know,
but
that
they'll
is
have other
a different
cultures.
point. And I'm glad you coached it in those terms.
Yeah.
In other words, to import Haitians here might help the economy, but it's not going to help the culture because the Haitians will bring their culture.
I wasn't
It's
speaking
not
of any
if you
particular
bring.
group. I wasn't speaking of any particular set of persons.
Well, no, I wasn't either. But the fact, any group you bring, you bring Indians, you bring Chinese, whoever you bring, you're going to change the Jamaican culture. The way to have our culture sustained is, of course, to have Jamaicans, in the population increase. But as you know, if you go to London or New York or Toronto, you will find thousands of Jamaicans, and our culture is very strong there. So another way to increase our population is not to have so many Jamaicans lining up at the US Embassy and the Canadian High Commission every day to migrate. But of course, that's not going to happen. So apparently, we're going to lose population constantly. We're going to have low birth rates. And so the numbers of Jamaicans are going to decline and are declining and will continue to decline with this set of policies that we have now.
There's an article here that was published recently in the Gleaner, May the 16th, 2025, done by Tanisha Mundell. And the headline is Sociologist Bats for Benefits to Rejuvenate Birth Rate. And the sociologist is Georgia Crawford. A number of things she's suggesting should be done to help to, change how things are going at the moment. And she mentions the term looming crisis. And a number of initiatives she has here, starting with cash bonuses for new mothers, home grants, and a 3-day work week for parents. And she outlines a number of other things. Pastor Percival Palmer, your thoughts in terms of how to look at this matter of the birth rate and maybe how to resolve the issue. Pastor Palmer?
Morning to Deacon SQ. Very
morning.
Very interesting thought. But I begin with just simply be whatever a man sow, God is not to see whatever a man sow, he shall reap. So even as Deacon SQ pointed to the fact that government policy, I remember 2 is better than 2 men and it was pushed on us. And even recently, it's in the psyche because I'm a pastor and a marital counselor. And I was asked, how much you're going to have? 2, 3, and I'm saying, but you remember the mandate in Genesis that God gave to mankind? Replenish the earth, be fruitful and multiply. So if God says that to us, and we decide that, that's not going to work. Because
we decide that we're smarter than God.
Oh, we are smarter than God. So if God in his infinite wisdom says to us, this is how you're going to do it. And then again, he says that children are the heritage of the Lord.
Yes.
It means then that he knows what he was talking about, because the truth is that we are responsible for the earth, which is a bigger thing. But if you don't have people, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And even as we reflect on what it means long term, if you don't have a population that is replenishing itself,
yeah,
then you, as Deacon SQ, you have workers and so on. So we have to shift our mind philosophically in terms of how we think it needs to be done. Some people have pointed to depopulation because they are saying there's not enough resources in the earth to maintain the world population. I disagree. If there's a disproportionate
seems to be an abundance to me.
There's more than abundance. So it's a shift in our mindset, because there is more than enough
to
sustain the population, but we have to shift our policies in believing that a few of us must control everything and the rest of us must suffer. And we pass that on and say, 2 is better than 2 is good enough. And so if we shift that by the policies that we engage in, I think that in a short order, we'll be able to fix that problem in terms of what we need to do. So we have to look at it in a way that says what God says, replenish, multiply. That means that we have to put policies in place that tell people, encourage people to have children. We shift things in terms of how the economic distribution happens within our society. And I think we'll solve the problem in regards to it.
Pastor Palmer, Deacon Dispute mentioned the whole matter of the cost of living. I don't think it's a point that we should sort of overlook.
No,
I've heard that point being made before. The cost of living is so high. You'll take a chance with having 1 or 2 children, but you're afraid to have 3, 4, 5, and 6, etc., because you don't think you can afford to maintain them.
Yeah, but our parents, my mother had 7 children. And we never died. We survived, and we have continued to live, even there are times when people say it was hard then. So the question is,
people say that there's a lot more inflation now than there was then. I don't know.
Oh Lord, have mercy.
I'm just raising the point. I'm not saying you're wrong or right. I'm just.
No, but it is. Do you believe in a God?
So in other words, we're looking for excuses. We're finding excuses then rather than fixing the problem.
Yeah, I believe in a God of abundance. I don't have a scarcity. I believe that God has given to us the earth, and when He gave us the earth, He gave us the resources in order for it to happen. So it is, as I said first, a question, philosophical outlook at how you look at things. So I admire the Catholics, in terms of their own thing, in terms of how they look at it. And we could take a page out of their book in terms of how they deal with this thing of children and so on. We have a culture of death in many ways, and we need to have a culture of life.
Pastor Palmer, only because of time, we have to leave it there this morning because I'm getting a wrap-up signal. Pastor Palmer, Deacon Espute, very interesting conversation. Thank you both for your time and for your thoughts.
Welcome. Thanks for taking up this topic.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
man,
very important discussion. And we need to continue discussing it. I agree, sir. Thank you, both of you, for being with us.
Bless you.
And thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. And of course, visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page and now TikTok at Love 101 FM Jamaica for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. And of course, download our Love 101 app and stay connected to the family station, Love 101 FM, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer Kathy Gale and to our guests. Join me tomorrow as we look at other topical issues of the day. I am Stokeley, Marshall, handing back of the morning with Drukal.
Next is Forward in Phoenix, brought to you by the